I am Amanda Turner, 34, and I've spent the past decade climbing the corporate ladder in investment banking to provide for my family. Mom, dad, and my siblings have relied on me financially since my first job, with everything from mortgage payments to groceries on my monthly auto pay list. When my mother called to say, "Don't bother coming for Thanksgiving," I realized they'd finally gone too far. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button and get comfortable. You're about to see how I taught my family that the ATM they mocked has an out-of-service mode. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, I watched my parents struggle financially after my father's hardware store went bankrupt when I was 12. Our middle-class lifestyle quickly downgraded as bill collectors called constantly, and we moved from our comfortable suburban home to a cramped two-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of town. My younger brother Jacob and sister Megan shared a room while I converted our living room couch into my bed every night. Despite these challenges, I excelled academically. School became my sanctuary and education my ticket out. I spent evenings at the public library not just because it was quiet, but because we couldn't afford internet at home. Teachers noticed my dedication, encouraging me to apply for scholarships. By senior year, I had maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while working weekends at a local diner. When my acceptance letter from Cornell University arrived with a substantial financial aid package, my parents seemed both proud and slightly resentful. "College is going to make you forget where you came from," my father mumbled when I shared the news. Still, I pursued my dreams, double majoring in finance and economics. During college breaks, I returned home to find conditions worsening. My parents had accumulated more debt, and my siblings were following their financial habits. While my college friends spent summers traveling, I worked multiple jobs to send money home. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a prestigious investment firm in New York. Within 5 years, I had received 3 promotions each, accompanied by substantial salary increases. By age 28, I was earning 6 figures and had become the family's financial backbone. The support started small, helping with my parents' utility bills during a particularly cold winter, then covering Megan's car repair when she couldn't afford it. Soon, these occasional helps transformed into regular expectations. I set up automatic payments for my parents' mortgage-established grocery delivery services, paid for their cell phone plans, covered car insurance for both siblings, and even funded Jacob's attempt at community college, which he abandoned after 2 semesters. When I purchased my condominium in Manhattan, my mother's first question wasn't about the neighborhood or how I felt about this milestone. It was whether this expensive purchase would affect my monthly contributions to them. My family's attitude shifted subtly over the years. Thank you notes for financial gifts stopped coming. Calls became less about catching up and more about additional needs. During family visits, my career successes were glossed over, while Jacob's part-time job as a barista received enthusiastic praise simply because he showed up consistently. Last Thanksgiving, I flew home with expensive gifts and paid for a catering service, so my mother wouldn't have to cook. Yet during dinner, when I mentioned my upcoming promotion to senior investment director, my father changed the subject to discuss Jacob's girlfriend's family business. My sister Megan later asked if my promotion meant I could finally help with her credit card debt, completely missing the significance of my achievement. The promotion came through in March, bringing new responsibilities and an impressive compensation package. I called my parents immediately to share the news, but my mother seemed distracted, quickly turning the conversation to ask if I could increase their monthly allowance. The pattern had become painfully clear. My value to the family was measured solely by the financial support I provided. Despite this growing awareness, I continued the support, partly from guilt, partly from hope that things would change. I lived alone in my beautiful but empty condominium, worked 60-hour weeks, and sent nearly a third of my income to Cleveland every month. My relationship history consisted of a string of failed connections with people who either couldn't understand my family obligations or were too interested in my financial status. When friends suggested I scale back family support, I defended my choices, insisting my family would do the same for me if situations were reversed. Deep down, though, doubts were growing, feeding a resentment I tried desperately to suppress. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening in early November. I had just finished a particularly challenging client meeting and was looking forward to finalizing my Thanksgiving travel plans. My mother's name flashed on my phone screen, and I answered with genuine warmth. Hi, Mom. I was just about to call you about my flight details for Thanksgiving. A brief silence followed before her uncharacteristically formal voice responded. Actually, Amanda, that's why I'm calling. Don't bother coming for Thanksgiving this year. The cold, matter-of-fact delivery felt like a slap. I sat down at my kitchen counter momentarily speechless. Mom, what do you mean I always come home for Thanksgiving? Well, there's been a change of plans. Jacob's girlfriend Tiffany invited her parents to join us, and we just don't have space for everyone. Her tone remained detached, as though discussing a minor schedule adjustment, rather than excluding her daughter from a family holiday. I could book a hotel room, I offered, struggling to keep disappointment from my voice. It's not a problem. That seems unnecessary for just one meal, she replied. Besides, you probably have to work anyway, right? You're always working. This accusation stung particularly hard. For years, I had carefully protected holiday time for family visits, often taking work calls in my childhood bedroom to ensure I never missed these gatherings. I've already requested the days off, I said quietly. I was looking forward to seeing everyone. Well, there's always Christmas, she said dismissively. Jacob and Tiffany are really excited about this Thanksgiving. Her parents are quite well off, you know. Her father owns 3 car dealerships in the area. The implication hung in the air Tiffany's family had more social value than I did. After a painfully awkward conversation, where I maintained composure despite growing hurt, we ended the call with my mother extracting a promise that I would still send the usual money for their Thanksgiving groceries, since you won't be here to eat any of it. After hanging up, I opened Instagram almost reflexively, scrolling to my brother's profile. There, posted 3 weeks earlier, was a photo of Jacob, Tiffany, and my parents with the caption, "Planning the perfect family Thanksgiving with the future in-laws. Sorry, sis, at Amanda Turner can't make it this year. Have family first." My hands trembled as I stared at the post. This hadn't been a last-minute decision they had planned to exclude me for weeks without even telling me. I clicked through to Tiffany's profile, which was public, and found more evidence, a post showing her and my sister Megan shopping for Thanksgiving decorations 2 weeks ago, another of my father helping install a leaf in our dining table for the special guests. Most devastating was an accidental audio clip in one of Jacob's stories, where I clearly heard him joke, "Amanda won't mind missing this year. She's too busy making money anyway. Besides, she's basically the family ATM, not like she needs actual quality time." My mother's laugh followed with a comment about how I probably wouldn't notice I wasn't invited until the day before, since I'm always working. The family ATM. The words echoed in my head as tears finally broke through my shocked composure. 6 years of financial support, of rearranging my life around their needs, of prioritizing their stability over my own relationships. And this was how they saw me. I scrolled through my phone to last year's Thanksgiving photos. There I was standing slightly apart from the family group, my professional smile in place while they clustered together. I had paid for everything that day: the gourmet turkey, the premium wine, the festive decorations. The receipt from the caterer was still in my email, $1,782.36 for a meal, where my career news had been brushed aside in favor of Jacob's minimum wage job. The pain of rejection transformed into something sharper as pieces fell into place. My parents had never expressed genuine interest in my life in New York. They asked about my job only when raises or bonuses were mentioned. They remembered my birthday only after I had remembered theirs with generous gifts. The family ATM. The phrase kept returning now, accompanied by growing anger. If that's all I was to them, perhaps it was time they learned what happens when you mistreat the source of your financial stability. I sat alone in my living room that evening, watching the Manhattan skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows that had once filled me with pride, but now seemed to emphasize my isolation. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from friends who had heard about my holiday plans falling through. Sarah, my closest friend since college, called immediately after I posted a vague social media update about spending Thanksgiving in New York. "What happened to Cleveland?" she demanded when I answered. The whole story poured out of me: the cold call, the discovered social media posts, the years of growing entitlement. Sarah listened without interruption, then declared, That's it. You're coming to Connecticut with me. My parents have been asking to meet you for years. Another call came from my colleague Michael, inviting me to his family's Thanksgiving celebration in the Hamptons. My neighbor Elena suggested a Strays Thanksgiving for everyone in our building without travel plans. The contrast between these spontaneous, genuine invitations and my own family's rejection heightened my emotional turmoil. These people who had no obligation to me showed more concern than those I had supported for years. Between calls, I found myself opening my banking app, scrolling through years of transactions. The numbers were staggering when viewed as a cumulative amount. Monthly mortgage payments of $1,850, weekly grocery deliveries averaging $400, car payments for both siblings totaling $876, insurance premiums, utility bills, medical expenses when my father needed dental work, the cruise I had funded for their 30th anniversary. Conservative estimates put my financial contribution to my family at over $45,000 annually for the past 6 years, more than $250,000. Money that could have gone toward my own future, perhaps even a family of my own. I pulled out old photo albums, pictures from before money became the focus of our relationship. There was 12-year-old me holding my acceptance letter to the gifted program. My parents stood behind me, genuine pride in their expressions. When had that pride transformed into expectation and entitlement? I found a photo from my college graduation. My mother had hugged me that day, whispering, "You're going to do amazing things." Had she already been calculating how those amazing things would benefit her financially? The breaking point came when I discovered an email thread I had been accidentally copied on 3 months ago, but had overlooked in my busy inbox. My father had written to my siblings, "Amanda's bonus should come through next month. Let's wait until then to ask about the bathroom remodel." My sister had replied, "Good call. She always feels generous right after bonus season." They had been strategizing about me coordinating their financial requests to maximize what they could extract. The realization hit me with physical force. I was not a daughter or sister to them, but a resource to be managed. I opened a bottle of wine and called Sarah back. "They've been playing me for years," I told her, voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and rage. "I've been telling you this since your second promotion," she replied gently. "Remember when your mom guilt-tripped you out of that vacation to Italy, and when your brother totaled his car a week after you mentioned saving for your own place?" "I kept making excuses for them," I admitted. "Because you're a good person who loves her family," Sarah said. "But honey love shouldn't be transactional, and they've turned your relationship into an ATM withdrawal slip." We talked until after midnight, Sarah patiently listening as I cycled through grief, anger, and uncertainty. "What do I even do now?" I finally asked. "You already know," she replied softly. "You've known for a while, but you weren't ready." She was right. In the quiet hours of that sleepless night, as I stared at my ceiling and processed years of manipulation, I recognized that continuing to enable my family wasn't helping any of us. Real love meant setting boundaries, even painful ones. By morning, clarity had replaced confusion. I would not continue to be the family ATM. It was time to shut down the unlimited withdrawals and teach my family the value of what they had taken for granted. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. This required careful planning, not emotional reactions. I brewed a strong cup of coffee and opened my laptop, creating a spreadsheet titled Financial Disentanglement Plan. First, I documented every automatic payment subscription and financial commitment I maintained for my family. The list spanned multiple categories: housing monthly mortgage payment, property tax installments, homeowner's insurance, lawn care service, utilities, electricity, water, gas, internet, cable, television package, transportation, car payments for both siblings, auto insurance for the family, 8AA memberships, gas card allowances, food, weekly grocery delivery service, meal kit, subscriptions, entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Spotify Family Plan, Amazon Prime, communications cell phone family plan with unlimited data, iPad, data plans, miscellaneous monthly, emergency, cash transfers, credit card minimum payments, medical insurance supplements. For each item, I noted the amount, frequency, account details, and whether my family had alternate means to cover these expenses themselves. The answer was consistently yes. My father received Social Security and had a part-time job at a hardware store. My mother worked as a receptionist, and both siblings were employed, though underemployed by choice. Next, I called my financial advisor, Jordan, explaining the situation in professional terms. I need to restructure my family financial obligations in a way that protects me legally while encouraging their independence, I told her. I've been wondering when we'd have this conversation, Jordan replied, surprising me with her candor. Your family financial outflow has been a significant drag on your long-term investment strategy for years. I have some recommendations ready. With Jordan's guidance, I categorized the accounts into three groups: immediate termination subscriptions and services that could be canceled without legal implications, 30-day notice required, accounts where proper notification was necessary to avoid penalties, transition planning needed, long-term commitments like the mortgage that required more structured unwinding. I then called my therapist, Dr. Winters, whom I had been seeing sporadically to deal with work stress, but had never fully opened up to about my family dynamics. I'm making a major change in my family financial relationships and need strategies to maintain boundaries, I explained. She offered a same-day emergency appointment where she helped me draft scripts for the inevitable confrontations and advised on managing guilt. Financial enabling isn't kindness, she reminded me. It's actually preventing their growth and independence. Armed with professional advice, I began methodical implementation. First, I drafted a clear, unemotional email to send to my entire family, explaining my decision and the timeline. I saved it as a draft planning to send it after the initial changes were made. Experience had taught me that advance notice would only result in emotional manipulation attempts. I opened my banking portal and began the process of cancellation. The premium grocery delivery service was the first to go. A few clicks, and the weekly $400 order scheduled for the next day was canceled, along with all future deliveries. Next, I removed my credit card from their gas accounts. My brother and sister had been filling up their tanks at my expense for years, often taking weekend road trips without consideration for the cost. I logged into the mortgage payment portal and removed the autopay feature, ensuring the next payment would not process automatically. One by one, I canceled entertainment subscriptions or removed their devices from family sharing plans. I froze the additional credit cards I had provided for emergencies that somehow included designer clothes and gaming consoles. I contacted each utility company to remove my automatic payments maintaining service, but transferring payment responsibility back to my parents. For each cancellation, I saved confirmation emails and screenshots as documentation. The process took hours, each click simultaneously painful and liberating. Throughout the day, I experienced waves of guilt and doubt. Was I being too harsh? Should I give them one more chance? During these moments, I reread the Instagram comments about being the family ATM, or reviewed the email thread planning how to extract more money from me. The anger these reminders triggered helped me continue. I also prepared for the fallout by setting digital boundaries. I created email filters to direct family messages to a separate folder I could check when emotionally prepared. I adjusted my phone settings to send their calls to voicemail initially. I changed my home address on all family-accessible accounts and set up mail forwarding to ensure no financial documents would be sent to their home. By late afternoon, I had dismantled most of the financial scaffolding that had supported my family for years. The mortgage notice would take 30 days, but everything else would show effects immediately or within days. As evening approached, I took a deep breath and sent the prepared email. Dear family, after careful consideration, I have decided to discontinue the financial support I've been providing. This includes mortgage payments, grocery deliveries, utilities, car payments, and all other expenses I've been covering. This decision wasn't made lightly, but it has become clear that our relationship has evolved into one primarily defined by financial transactions, rather than emotional connection. The recent Thanksgiving plans made weeks ago, without including me, confirmed that my role in this family has been reduced to financial provider, rather than daughter and sister. I remain open to rebuilding our relationship on more balanced terms in the future. However, this will require mutual respect and recognition of boundaries. I wish you all well, Amanda. I then turned off my phone, poured another glass of wine, and tried to prepare myself for the storm that would follow. The first call came at 6:48 the next morning. Still groggy from a night of restless sleep, I checked my phone to see my mother's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail following my predetermined plan to respond only when emotionally ready. Her message was confused rather than angry. "Amanda, honey, there seems to be some mistake with the grocery delivery. They said the service was canceled. Can you call them and sort it out? We're expecting Tiffany's parents this weekend for a pre-Thanksgiving dinner." Within the hour, 5 more calls followed, each message increasingly anxious. By 9 a.m., my mother had discovered that not just the grocery service, but several other automatic payments had been disrupted. My brother Jacob was the first to resort to anger, his text message vibrating with rage. "WTF, Amanda! My gas card just declined and I'm stranded at the station. Fix this now." I didn't respond immediately, using techniques Dr. Winters had suggested to process my emotions before engaging. Instead, I went for a long run in Central Park, the November chill clearing my head. When I returned to my apartment, I found 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. My sister Megan had joined the chorus, her approach more manipulative. "I don't know what's going on, but Mom is really upset. She's crying in her room and saying you hate us. Please call her, whatever this is about." I showered, made breakfast, and finally sat down to craft measured responses. To Jacob's angry text, I replied simply, "The card wasn't declined by accident. I've discontinued financial support as explained in my email. There's a bus stop 2 blocks from that gas station." To Megan, I wrote, "I understand this is a difficult adjustment. I'm sorry Mom is upset, but my decision stands. Please read my email for a full explanation." My father, who rarely communicated directly with me, sent a single message. "We need to talk about what your mother found in the mail about the mortgage." I responded with a link to financial counseling services available through his employer. By midday, the tone of messages shifted from confusion and anger to bargaining. My mother called again, leaving a tearful voicemail. "Amanda, sweetie, if this is about Thanksgiving, of course you're welcome to come. We can make room. Please call me back." I remained firm, responding via text. "This isn't about Thanksgiving specifically, though. That was revealing. This is about years of being valued primarily for financial support rather than as a family member. I'm open to conversation once everyone has had time to process this change." The family group chat, normally quiet except for requests directed at me, exploded with activity. Accusations flew. I was cruel, ungrateful, having a mental breakdown. My brother suggested I had probably met some guy who was turning me against them. My sister questioned whether work stress had finally made me snap. What was notably absent was any acknowledgement of their behavior or the years of financial dependence. Not one message contained a genuine apology or recognition of how they had treated me. By evening, as reality set in, the approach changed again. My mother sent a lengthy message detailing all the sacrifices she and my father had made during my childhood. The music lessons they had scraped together, money for the secondhand computer they had purchased for my school projects. "We gave everything so you could succeed," she wrote. "And now that you have, you're abandoning us." This struck closest to my heart, triggering the deep-seated guilt that had kept me financially entangled for so long. I drafted and deleted multiple responses before finally writing, "I recognize and appreciate the sacrifices you made. That's why I've been supporting the family for years out of gratitude and love. But that support has become expected rather than appreciated." When Jacob called me the family ATM, and you laughed, it confirmed what I felt for a long time, that my value to this family is measured in dollars rather than love. The revelation that I had heard this comment stunned them into temporary silence. When responses resumed, they were defensive. Jacob claimed it was just a joke. My mother insisted she had only laughed out of awkwardness. The real crisis came Thanksgiving morning. I woke to a series of increasingly desperate voicemails from my father, who had finally received formal notice that the mortgage payment would not be processed the following week. "Amanda, this isn't a game." His voice trembled with a mixture of fear and anger. "We could lose the house. Your mother hasn't slept in days. Is that what you want?" This was followed immediately by calls from both siblings, and finally a family video call attempt, which I declined. Instead, I sent one final group message. I understand this is causing stress, and that wasn't my intent. You have 5 days until the mortgage payment is due. Dad makes enough at his job to cover it if you prioritize that over other expenses. Mom's receptionist position provides enough for utilities. Jacob and Megan both have income for their own car payments and expenses. I'm not doing this to punish you, but to restore balance and independence. I'm happy to provide financial planning resources or advice during this transition, but the automatic payments will not be resumed. An hour later, my mother called again. This time I answered. Amanda. She began, her voice small and unfamiliar. We need help. Not just money, we need to understand what happened. Where did we go wrong? It was the first genuine question she had asked since this began. It wasn't one thing, I replied carefully. It was years of interactions where my value seemed tied to what I could provide rather than who I am. It was planning family events without me while expecting my financial contribution. It was dismissing my achievements while taking the rewards of those achievements for granted. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she had hung up. I didn't realize, she finally said. I didn't see what we were doing. It wasn't a full acknowledgement, but it was a start. For the first time in years, we had a conversation that wasn't centered around money or obligations, but feelings and perceptions. It was uncomfortable, tearful, and occasionally heated, but it was honest. By the end of the call, nothing was resolved, but something had shifted. My mother promised to talk with the rest of the family, and I promised to call again the following week. That afternoon, as I prepared to join Sarah's family for Thanksgiving dinner, I received a simple text from my father. I'm sorry we made you feel like an ATM. You've always been more than that. We just forgot to show it. It wasn't everything, but it was something. A crack in the entitlement that had defined our relationship for too long. A possible path forward. 1 year later, I stood in my childhood kitchen chopping vegetables for Thanksgiving dinner. My mother worked beside me kneading dough for fresh rolls, a skill she had learned in the cooking class she now took at the community center. The past 12 months had been a journey of painful growth and gradual healing. After the financial separation, my family had struggled initially facing the reality of living within their actual means. My father had taken on additional shifts at the hardware store. My mother had requested full-time hours at the medical office where she worked. Both siblings had found better employment when necessity finally overcame complacency. I had maintained my boundary around regular financial support, but had helped in more balanced ways. When my father needed emergency dental surgery 3 months after our rift, I had paid the portion insurance didn't cover, but as a one-time gift with no strings attached, not an expected obligation. For my mother's birthday, instead of the usual cash transfer, I had arranged for us to take a cooking class together during my visit home, an investment in our relationship, rather than her bank account. My brother Jacob, after the initial shock and anger, had perhaps shown the most growth. The loss of financial cushioning had motivated him to finally complete his associate's degree. He now worked as a pharmacy technician and had recently been accepted to a pharmacy program at the state university. Our conversations had evolved from thinly veiled requests for money to genuine exchanges about his studies and my work. My sister Megan had taken longer to adjust. She had tried various manipulation tactics for months before finally accepting that the ATM was permanently closed. Our relationship remained the most strained, but even she had begun to show signs of maturity, recently passing her real estate licensing exam and selling her first property. My parents had downscaled to a smaller home that better fit their budget. The process had been emotional, but ultimately freeing for all of us. They now lived in a comfortable 2-bedroom condo, with maintenance included in their affordable monthly payment. The family dynamic had shifted fundamentally. Our interactions were less frequent, but more meaningful. Holiday gatherings were simpler, but more genuine. Without the financial power imbalance, we were slowly relearning how to connect as individuals. My own life had transformed as well. Freed from the constant drain of supporting multiple households, I had finally taken the European vacation I had postponed for years. I had started dating more seriously, no longer subconsciously seeking partners who wouldn't question my family financial obligations. Most importantly, I had learned to value myself beyond what I could provide for others. A lesson that had improved not just family relationships, but friendships and professional interactions as well. Amanda, my mother called me back to the present moment. Would you taste this and tell me if it needs more salt? It was a small thing, this request for my opinion rather than my credit card, but it represented everything that had changed. I tasted the gravy she offered suggested a bit more pepper and received a genuine smile in return. Later, as we gathered around the table, a smaller, humbler table than years past, but somehow warmer, my father asked me to share a recent work accomplishment. He listened attentively, asked relevant questions, and expressed pride without any subtle hints about how my success might benefit him. My brother proposed a toast to Amanda, not for what she gives us, but for who she is, the strongest, smartest Turner who taught us all that family means more than finances. As glasses clinked, I caught my mother's eye across the table. The understanding that passed between us contained the complicated truth of our journey, the hurt, the healing, and the hope. That evening, as I prepared to return to my hotel, I still maintained some boundaries. My father walked me to my car. You know, he said quietly, losing your financial support was the best thing that ever happened to us. Not at first. At first, it was terrifying. But it forced us to stand on our own feet. It made us better people. It made us better parents. I hugged him tightly, words temporarily beyond reach. The lesson I had learned over this challenging year was profound. Sometimes true love means saying no. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their dependence. And sometimes you have to risk losing relationships to discover whether they were ever truly based on love at all. As I drove away from my childhood home, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for years. The family ATM had closed permanently, but in its place, something far more valuable had emerged: authentic connection based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. True family, I had discovered, isn't measured in dollars transferred, but in respect freely given. And boundaries, painful as they might be to establish, are sometimes the foundation upon which genuine love can finally be built. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took you for granted? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding self-worth and building healthier relationships. Remember, sometimes the strongest act of love is standing up for yourself. Thank you for listening, and may your own family connections be built on genuine appreciation rather than obligation.